The last thing you want to do is overcomplicate fantasy football. Sometimes there are just glaring reasons to avoid a player. If you end up talking yourself into a player that you really don't want, and then they end up struggling, you're going to be mother F-bombing everything in your path. Well, it's your lucky day because it's my job to limit those mother F-bomb outbursts. So that's why today we're talking about 10 players that I'm probably not drafted much in 2024. Now, it's also my job to drop bangers weekly, so you better believe today is going to be one. Now, I have been doing research all off season long with almost every single player in the NFL, and it's led me to identify a few players that I'm really not interested in drafting here in 2024. Now, no, by no means am I saying in today's show that these players are going to suck or they're going to be absolute busts. These are just guys who I really don't love their situation, or maybe they're a little bit too expensive on draft day. But I'm also going to give you a few of my preferred selections that maybe you can get in a similar area or a little bit later than these guys. Now, if you're absolutely ready to dominate this year, do me a favor and hit the like button now. If this video can get over 1,000 likes, I'm going to pick a random commenter from down below and give them a free 2024 fantasy football draft guide. But let's go ahead and dive into a few of the names. Here are 10 players that I just don't see myself drafting much in 2024. So when we start to dive into the names that I'm not really seeing myself drafting much here in 2024, a name like AJ Brown pops up pretty often in my opinion. His current ADP is 9th overall, and I know there's a lot of people out there that love themselves some AJ Brown. Philadelphia Eagles especially, I see him in the comment sections going off all the time. But really, when you look back at what AJ Brown is in this Philadelphia Eagles offense, it's a little inconsistent. Now, he carried fantasy teams to start the season and then absolutely buried them in the fantasy playoffs last year. He went on an unbelievable hot streak with 6 straight games, over 125 yards receiving. Now, through the first 10 weeks of the year, he was the wide receiver 2 overall in fantasy football and only trailed Tyreek Hill. But from weeks 11 on, he was the wide receiver 32 overall and was outscored by Demarcus Robinson of the Rams during that stretch. Now, he had 6 100-yard games in the first 8 weeks of the season, only had that number one time the final 9 games of the season. In fact, 1/3 of his season-long scoring came in just 3 games last year. Now, I know a lot of people will put down in the comment section, because they have before, that yeah, that's because the offense struggled. Now we have a new offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore, and he is going to fix all those inconsistencies. Now, as much as I do believe that Kellen Moore is an upgraded offensive coordinator, can we look back over the past few years and be like, you know who was really consistent? It was the Cowboys and the Chargers. I don't see a whole lot of people saying that. I mean, it's really wishful thinking, and it sounds really good to just say, you know what, the new offensive coordinator is going to fix things. But honestly, that doesn't guarantee anything for any certain player in this offense. This is an offense that is still loaded with weapons that can be utilized weekly. Plus, they just added Saquon Barkley. We know that Saquon and Jalen Hurts could rack up a butt ton of touchdowns on the ground. With AJ Brown still being super expensive on draft day, a late first-round pick, there are just a few other guys that I would rather take a little bit later that have similar ceilings. Guys like Garrett Wilson. How about the stud rookie Marvin Harrison Jr. out of Arizona? And then another guy who a lot of people really aren't talking about this offseason too much, Devonta Adams. Now, when we go to another guy that I really don't see myself drafting a lot of here in 2024, it's Kiren Williams, running back of the Los Angeles Rams. His current ADP is 15th overall. Early second round. And if you've watched this channel for any length of time, you know we love ourselves some Kiren Williams. The dude absolutely killed it last year. Missed 5 games and still finished as the running back 6 overall in fantasy football. That's absolutely great. But now he's being drafted as the running back 7 overall in drafts. The guy has never played more than 12 games in a season, and now they've basically drafted his football clone in Blake Corum out of Michigan. There is just a little bit more unknown and a little bit more unprovenness when it comes to the risk of drafting Kiren Williams that high. In my opinion, there's a few other guys being drafted in similar areas or a little bit later that I would prefer. Guys like Travis Etienne in Jacksonville. How about Derrick Henry in Baltimore and Josh Jacobs in Green Bay? Which will then take us to the part of the show where I'm probably going to piss off Bills Mafia. My apologies, but Josh Allen is on my list as well. His current ADP is 20th overall, a second round pick for Josh Allen. and I just can't pay that price tag here in 2024. Sure, Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis are gone, but I still think that Buffalo has enough weapons on offense for Josh Allen to have a super solid season. But is he going to go out there and throw for over 4,200 yards and 30 touchdowns again with the likes of Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, and Curtis Samuel? It's not going to be that easy. And if I'm being completely honest, I can't sit back and rely on a career year every year when it comes to rushing touchdowns. Last year was the first time in his career where he had double-digit rushing touchdowns. It's just different than in years past. The distance between him and the other top 4 quarterbacks in fantasy football is a lot closer than it has been in the past. And honestly, I would rather draft another running back or wide receiver in the second round and get somebody else a little bit later. Some of my preferred selections: CJ Stroud, Jordan Love, and Brock Purdy. Which then takes us to Drake London of the Atlanta Falcons. His current ADP is 21st overall, a second round pick as well. And this one for me is all about price on draft day. I have professed my love for Drake London. I am hoping that this is the year he finally gets an opportunity to break out. I've spoken on the coaching changes in Atlanta. I've talked about how great it is that he has Kirk Cousins under center instead of what he's had the past couple of years. But at wide receiver 11 off the board right now, that's just a little bit too high for me personally. Now, I hope he breaks out, but really before I draft him that high, I need to see this Atlanta offense be a little bit better. Personally, I'll wait a little bit longer and grab a guy like Mike Evans or Jalen Waddle or maybe even Cooper Kupp, which will then bring us to another guy in the late second round that I'm really just not drafting right now. It's Devon Aan of the Miami Dolphins, and I know a lot of people do not agree with this. People saw the explosions last year, and now all of a sudden they want that on their team in 2024, and I really don't blame them. He currently has a projected ADP, though, at 22nd overall, so late second round. Now, last year, this guy finished as a top 24 running back, but missed almost 8 full games. He had 5 games of over 20 fantasy points. He averaged a whopping 7.8 yards per carry and a touchdown every 11.8 touches. He also had a breakaway run rate of 12.6%, which was the highest in the NFL. Now, if you don't know what that is, a breakaway run rate is the percentage of carries that result in 15 yards or more. The guy was unstoppable when he was on the field, but I cannot go into a season and expect historic numbers like that again. If he keeps a similar role this year and averages right around 14 touches per game, he would need to play in at least 15 full games this season in order to return draft value, and he would also need to score at least 10 touchdowns. Is he going to be able to stay on an NFL field for 15 games? That's the biggest question. We know Raheem Mostert is getting a little bit older, but he's going to start the season with a large chunk of work on the early downs. But then they also went out and drafted speedster Jalen Wright. This backfield is full of speed, and they need all of these guys healthy all year long. How do you do that? You kind of limit all their touches and turn this into a really split backfield. So while he'll probably have some big games, he'll probably have some down games as well, and I don't want to invest in a late second round pick that has those inconsistencies weekly while we really haven't seen him play a full NFL season yet. There are some other guys that I would prefer a little bit later. Personally, I'm going after somebody like Isaiah Pacheco, Joe Mixon, or even James Cook out of Buffalo. Now, maybe you're out there watching right now going, damn, I would love some of these players on my fantasy football team. This YouTube guy, he don't know anything. Well, now is the time to put up or shut up, because I want to challenge you to join me in some leagues on Underdog Fantasy. There are links right now in the description of this video for you to click on and join leagues with me. Now, maybe you don't already have an Underdog Fantasy account. Don't worry, it's not too late. Go over to Underdog Fantasy or download the app, create a new account, use the referral code Headliners when you sign up, and then make your minimum $10 deposit. By doing that, you're going to get a first-time deposit bonus of up to $250 in bonus cash. Plus, I'm going to send you a free 2024 fantasy football draft guide. Then once you're all signed up, you can join the leagues that I already have down in the description, and we'll see if you can take my money. We're also going to be doing player pick'ems all season long, and that is one of our biggest things that we do during the NFL regular season. I'm looking forward to winning another couple $1,000s this year on those as well. But all right, back to more players that I really don't see myself drafting much in 2024. And the next guy on my list is Travis Kelce with a current ADP of 27th overall, so an early third round pick for Travis Kelce. And I know a lot of people were disappointed with him last year, but he's still the tight end 2 right now in average ADP. He's coming off his worst season since 2015, the lowest amount of targets he's had in a season since 2014, his lowest touchdown total in the season since 2017, and now we look at the Chiefs offense, and they have more overall weapons for Patrick Mahomes than he's probably ever had in his career. Rashee Rice, his court date isn't until December, so he could be on the field the first 14 weeks of the season. They traded up into the first round to draft speedster wide receiver Xavier Worthy. They brought in Hollywood Brown in free agency. They still have role players like Justin Watson, Kadarius Toney, and Mecole Hardman. Travis Kelce is going to turn 35 this season, and he no longer needs to have the ball forced to him like he has in the past there in Kansas City. They're going to lessen his role, keep him healthy. They want him all year long, and then they can unleash him in the playoffs. Personally, there's a few guys a little bit later I would rather have. Guys like Trey McBride out of Arizona, Dalton Kincaid in Buffalo, or even Jake Ferguson out of Dallas. Which will then bring me to the next guy, and it pains me to continue to say this, but it's Nico Collins, wide receiver of the Houston Texans. His current ADP, 29th overall, still in the third round. And y'all know there isn't a bigger Nico Collins truther out there than me. I was the one last season all over YouTube telling everyone and their mother to draft this guy. A lot of people thought I was crazy, and then he went out and had a top 10 year where he outscored guys like Devonta Adams, Jamar Chase, and Deebo Samuel, all while missing 2 games last year. But then he got paid this offseason, and now he's being drafted as a top 15 wide receiver inside the third round. So really, what that means is we're asking Nico Collins to have a crazy similar season this year to what he had last year. But you know what is not crazy similar anymore? It's this Houston Texans team. This offense just added Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon, and not to mention their defense got a little bit better as well. Plus, and arguably, most importantly, they're getting back CJ Stroud's favorite weapon in Tank Dell. Don't forget, he missed a lot of time last season. So now we have a greater competition for targets in Houston than we have had arguably ever. We have an upgraded run game with Joe Mixon and the increased possibility of lower passing volume this year. If Houston can take more late game leads into the fourth quarter, they're going to rely on the running game and not have to play catch up and throw the ball as much in 2024. Now, if you spend a third round pick on a wide receiver hoping he's going to repeat a career year from the prior year, even though things are completely different, that absolutely worries me. There's a few guys a little bit later that I would rather have, guys like Mike Evans, Jalen Waddle, or even Michael Pittman. Which will then bring us to the next guy who has a lot of similarities to Nico Collins. It's DJ Moore, Chicago's wide receiver with a current ADP of 42nd overall, so in the fourth round. Now, like I said, it's a lot of similarities here to Nico Collins. It's not a player issue by any means, but we have a target share that's going to be split a bunch of different ways. Don't forget, they added Keenan Allen. They drafted Rome Odunze. We have multiple tight ends in this offense that can catch passes as well with Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett. We also have a solid defense that could keep scores a little bit lower, where they're not having to pass for all 4 quarters either. But now, we have something added into this equation, and it's an unproven rookie quarterback in Caleb Williams. He may be good. We do not know for sure because we haven't seen him in a regular season NFL game just yet. Does he spread the ball around? Does he lock on to a certain guy more frequently? We really do not know for sure, right? Nobody can go out there and say this is going to be his number 1 target. If you're saying that, you're really just guessing. And honestly, I really don't want to play the lottery every time I throw a Bears wide receiver into my lineup in 2024. At the end of the year, they could all end up having a great season. But from a week-to-week standpoint, their production could just be up and down too much that I really don't want to deal with that headache. Some of the other guys that I would prefer in similar areas are guys like DK Metcalf, Zay Flowers, or maybe even Malik Neighbors. Now, I have a little bit of pause for the cause right there with Malik Neighbors, because really, as much as I love him, I don't know if I can trust the quarterback play. That's more of one of those lottery ticket type plays where if you want to take a gamble, I'd rather take a gamble on a guy with Malik Neighbors, who's going to have a huge target share, than a guy with a high ceiling like DJ Moore that's going to have to fight for targets weekly. Which will then bring us to the next guy is Deontay Johnson, wide receiver of the Carolina Panthers, currently 88th overall, so not a super early pick, and I get it. He is the #1 wide receiver in Carolina. There are higher expectations this year for this offense with new head coach Dave Canellis, but it's not like Bryce Young is some proven NFL quarterback, and Deontay Johnson isn't the only show in town when it comes to the Panthers. They spent a first-round pick on wide receiver Xavier Legette. They still have a reliable veteran in Adam Thielen, who put up some big games last year with Bryce Young, and they also have other unproven talent in guys like Terrace Marshall and Jonathan Mingo. Now, while Deontay Johnson is a little bit more of a volume receiver, I'm not sold that he sees all the volume in this offense. There are just other guys with similar ceilings that may be a little bit safer that I would prefer. Guys like Rashee Rice right now. A lot of people have no idea what to do with Rashee Rice. He's still sitting in this same area and a possibility. What about Calvin Ridley? We know DeAndre Hopkins is working through some injuries. Ridley in a new offense with Will Levis and a new head coach in Brian Callahan over from Cincinnati, who's already said, listen, we want to put Ridley in that Jamar Chase type role. That's an option, along with another rookie. It's Keon Coleman out of Buffalo, chasing that target volume right there. Which will then lead us to the last guy on the list is Javon Williams, running back of the Denver Broncos. This one breaks my heart as well. His current ADP is 95th overall, not super high. I love Javon Williams. I was pumped for him coming into the league, and really it hasn't materialized into much. We all know he dealt with an ACL injury back in 2022, but there wasn't much last season that really got us excited. He had a career high in touches last year. A lot of people don't realize that. 264 total touches, which is pretty good for a season, but he finished as the running back 31 overall and only had 4 games all season long with double-digit fantasy points. This Broncos offense could be drastically different this year, and there is so much unknown. The quarterback play could be really bad. Right now, their QB1 is Jarrett Stidham. And after that, we got Zach Wilson and rookie Bo Nix. We just have no idea what to expect in Denver, but none of it looks great. They're probably going to be trailing a lot in games, having to throw the ball a lot more than maybe anticipated. Now, while I think that Javon Williams is the best overall running back in this backfield, my opinion does not matter. They still have other guys there like Samaje Perine and Jaleel McLaughlin, who's really showing out in camp right now, for sure, vying for touches this season. There are just other guys in this area that I would rather take a chance on. Guys like Austin Eckler now in Washington. No, he's not going to have a huge role, for sure. He's going to have a limited role, but we've seen him produce in that type of role before. What about Tajay Spears? Him and Tony Pollard in Tennessee, both going to be getting weekly touches in an improved offense. And then Gus Edwards in LA. Now, he really is a Harbaugh type of running back. Now, while there's going to be other competition in that backfield for touches, I can see Gus Edwards racking up a lot of early season touchdowns. So like I said at the beginning, I'm not saying these players are going to suck or be an absolute bust in 2024 fantasy football. I just don't know if I like the overall situations or their price tags on draft day. We all love to draft those players who can score 30 points a week, but if those same players have a floor of like 3 or 4 points, I'm not really interested. I'm trying to find consistent, high-performing studs when I play fantasy football. So let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Who are some of the players that you plan on avoiding in 2024? I'm looking forward to having some conversations with you guys down below in the comment section. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here for the day, but hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day, and then most importantly, do your part to make the world a better place.